Hello Heights Church, Pastor Justin here, and it is a privilege to be with you today. We're talking about the miracles of Jesus. And one of the things I want to just remind you of is that the miracles of Jesus were intended by Jesus to be the evidence that he was who he claimed to be. So they were supposed to look at the evidence and see that Jesus really was the Messiah. Well, I'm going to be talking with you about a story about Jesus calming the storm on the Sea of Galilee. Because what I know about this is that sometimes we get an image of this story based on our experience of what's going on around us. Well, I had a privilege of doing a message on this passage many years ago. And I did some research on the lake. And one of the things about the Sea of Galilee, it's got a couple names. It goes by the Sea of Tiberias, the Sea of Galilee. But the reality is it's actually just a lake. It's actually smaller than South Lake Tahoe. If you go to South Lake Tahoe, you can see every shore from wherever you are on it. In fact, the same is true for the Sea of Galilee. A couple of other things to note about it: it's actually fairly shallow as lakes go. I mean, don't get me wrong; it's a lake. It's deep, but it's not. It tends to get really violent really fast because of how shallow it is. And by violent, I mean it kicks up waves, big waves, pretty quick. The other thing is on the east side of the lake, there are these cliffs. And what happens is wind comes off these cliffs at kind of warm, and the lake is actually below sea level. So you have this weird dance of hot and cold air right above the lake, and then it just drops. This windstorm just kind of pushes down onto the center of the lake, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it kicks these 10-foot waves up. Now, 10-foot waves may not sound that big when you're used to thinking, oh my gosh, those guys that surf this place called Jaws are surfing like 50, 60-foot waves. But when you're in a 10, 15-foot boat powered by oars, you are in danger because a 10-foot wave is over the bow of the boat. In fact, it obscures the horizon, and it's easily crashing onto the side of the boat. And the danger is you get swamped, meaning the boat fills with water and sinks. I mean, that's what they're afraid of, is that they're out in the middle of the lake. But let me read the story, and then I got just a couple quick observations for you. On that day, when the evening had come, he said to him, this is Jesus, "Let us go across to the other side." And leaving the crowd, they took him with them in the boat, just as he was, and the other boats were with him. And a great windstorm arose, and the waves were breaking into the boat, so that the boat was already being filled. But he was on the stern, asleep on the cushions. And they woke him, and they said to him, "Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing?" And he woke up, and he rebuked the wind, and he said to the sea, "Peace, be still." And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. And he said to them, "Why are you so afraid? Have you still no faith?" And they were filled with great fear, and they said to one another, "Who is this, that even the wind and the waves and the sea obey him?" You know, I love this story because the truth is, I think what was happening is the disciples were probably trying to manage this process and this storm. They're probably in there with buckets trying to shovel as much as they could possibly get out, but it's just filling too fast. And Jesus is napping. Here's their master sleeping on the bow. Are you not scared? We're going to die. We're out in the middle of this lake, and it's too far to swim, and these waves are too big. Have you ever felt that way in life? I mean, here's the thing. We know storms are going to come. We live in a fallen and broken world where storms, emotional, physical, mental, spiritual, people around us happen. Storms are inevitable. Are we going to try and manage the storm, or are we going to call out to our Creator? That's my encouragement and my thought from this whole passage, is whatever we're facing, am I being completely just transparent and vulnerable about my fear to Jesus? And then, am I trusting him with it? Because that was his rebuke. It wasn't that they were afraid. It was that they didn't trust that God was going to take care of them in the midst of it. Sometimes we get caught up in thinking that if I do the right things or I say the right things, that God will do X, Y, and Z. But sometimes I just need to trust him anyway, regardless of what he does or doesn't do, because he's got a better plan. And that's my encouragement, church, is trust him, trust his goodness, his love, his mercy, his grace, and know that he's got a better plan for your life and to get you through the storms. Thanks so much for joining me today. We'll see you next time.